My journey started several years ago after a conversation with Kim on how to build a culture of coaching. It was after this conversation that I started to think about the work that I had been doing. Was I truly coaching? Did I really understand what it meant to be a coach? Did I understand the difference of coaching hard and coaching soft? This all made me start to wonder how I could improve my role as a coach. I felt I was constantly asking myself, how was I coaching? Was I actually coaching? What are the different roles involved in being a coach? When should I be a coach? And when should I wear a different hat? Who do I know that I work with? Coaches. Where and when should I start coaching? But I think one of the biggest questions I asked myself was, do I enable the teachers I work with or do I empower them? After some thought, I think I was leaning more towards enabling them. I would happily go in, teach lessons, share resources, and work with the teachers because I enjoyed being in the classroom. But what I really wanted to do is start empowering the teachers more to be able to integrate technology independently. After completing the survey, I realized one of the biggest things I needed to work on was how to facilitate a coaching conversation and how to let the teachers take the lead in the conversation. I also realized the importance of creating a cyclical movement around the conversation, how the teacher starts, then moves forward with guiding questions, but always brings them back to their question from the beginning of the session. I also realized I needed to work on helping teachers with reflection questions, how to think back at their own teaching skills, what they wanted the outcome to be, and to then look back inside in what they're doing to help them to promote them to move forward, instead of me always providing the answer. And the final thing was to look at pushing further for more details, looking at how can we really get at what we're trying to get at here? How do we create a very clear reality picture instead of looking through a window of what we think we want? At the beginning of the course, I had a very clear vision of where I was going to go. However, COVID had thrown many roadblocks in my way, and I had to create a complete detour from my original plan. A majority of my time was being spent on COVID problems, such as testing students, working with online, and covering classes. So most of the preparation that I had planned was being delayed. As frustrating as the changes were, they turned out to be a blessing in disguise. This year at school, we had to pick our own personal projects for our growth throughout the year. With your growth plan, you ended up with a critical friend. This put me together with one of my colleagues named Leah. She was working on her personal growth plan to develop more academic conversation with her students, and she needed a critical friend. Very soon after starting the process of being Leah's critical friend, I realized it was also all around facilitating coaching conversations. This is where I decided to completely redirect my personal goal, and instead of working on a variety of different coaching projects throughout the school, my one focus began to be working with Leah and helping her with her personal project and coaching her through it as her critical friend. For Leah's project, she was working on helping her students develop academic conversations. Some of the protocols that we worked on were elaborate and clarify, and support with examples and evidence. We would start each of our coaching sessions discussing what Leah wanted to happen in the next class. She would go through which of the protocols she wanted the students to work on, how she thought it would apply to the class, where it was connected. My job was then to ask for questions such as, how can you tell if this is really being effective with your students? During class time, I was there to support Leah by modeling the different protocols with the students. She would explain beforehand in our coaching sessions exactly what she wanted to happen. She would have everything prepared. I would join her in the class and we would run through a modeling session with the prompts and all the research that she had created. The second part of my role was to then work with the students. While they practiced the different protocols, I would record them So later, Leah was able to see and reflect on the conversations and see how effective the students were using them in their class.
Hospital. Can you clarify why the fish ran away from the octopus? Because the octopus was like one that like it's their enemy, the one like who wants to break them and wants to eat all of them.
One of the other ways that I supported Leah was talking to her about the importance of videoing the lesson so she could later look at it to see how well the session went. Leah was a little bit reluctant to have the video recording while she was teaching the lesson. Or afterwards, in our coaching session, I did ask her, was it useful? Leah felt it was very useful. She said you experience it very differently than when you're in the moment. And you're not as hypersensitive to one specific thing, and you're able to see an overview of everything that was happening. She was also able to notice the repetition of the vocabulary she was using and the different vocabulary that the students were using. And it also gave her greater insight into the links that students were making into personal connections with the protocols. Each coaching session with Leah helped to build clarity for me to understand the difference between being a coach, being a collaborator, and being a consultant. I was able to really focus in on how to create questions that was going to help Leah to move forward with her own practice without me providing answers. I was also able to practice a variety of different ways to try and keep notes. I realized how unorganized I was in trying to keep my records on our conversations in many different places because I couldn't decide which one was the best. In the end, the best thing was just a basic Google document that talked about where we are today and where we're going tomorrow. One of the greatest supports I had working through the project was just working with my team. I'm fortunate enough that I work with two excellent coaches, Holly and Tiana, who were there to support me every time I had a question, and actually, in the long run, ended up coaching me in my coaching process by helping to ask the right questions that gave me greater insight into which direction I wanted to go next with the course. And now as I wind down and complete the final project for my course, I realized this is by no means the end of the journey. It is, however, a new chapter with a greater understanding of understanding what it means to be a coach, what I can do to improve my coaching role, and how I can support others. I now can go forward with greater understanding on which direction to take to move toward a coaching role. I have a better understanding on how to build coaching conversations, how to bring them back to the question why, which is bringing us back to the cyclical cycle of a coach. I also have a much greater understanding of the importance of record keeping to keep track of the conversations and what the main focus is as we work through the coaching process.